Welcome to the BBRC's first meeting of 2025. A week late because of New Year's Day, so appreciate your patience. Um, our SABR Day, as most people know, is going to be February 17th, which is President's Day at the brewery for those of you who are local or plan on coming. So that's Monday, February 17th. Speakers will be announced hopefully this weekend, at least a couple of them. And some programming information. Other than that, I don't have a lot to offer. You'll be getting the Baltimore Chop probably sometime in the next week or so. It's being edited as we speak. And hope everybody had a great holiday season. Happy New Year, or happy belated Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, everything else. I'm probably missing a few. Tonight we have David Krell. So you guys probably know he was the president of the North Jersey chapter for a long time. Author of several books, including one of my favorites, Do You Believe in Magic, about the 1966 season. He's going to be speaking to us tonight about baseball and The Sopranos. So very appropriate. Two of my favorite subjects. And since he's in New Jersey, he probably has a little bit more authority on the subject on both sides than most of us here. So, David, I will give you rights if you need to show any screens or slides, and take it away, would you please?
Okay, thank you so much and Happy New Year. I am delighted to be with the Baltimore chapter. You can see Camden Yards behind me virtually anyway. I get a chance tonight to join my two passions, popular culture, specifically television and baseball. So I'm going to talk about how baseball is involved in The Sopranos. But first, let me give a brief background of the show. That's my dog you hear in the background. The Sopranos, which was created by David Chase. David Chase was a prominent TV writer. He wrote for The Rockford Files, I'll Fly Away, Northern Exposure. He co-created a show called Almost Grown in the late 80s. This was a show very much targeted to baby boomers. Baby boomers were prominent in prime time in the 80s in shows like LA Law and Hill Street Blues, St. Elsewhere. He modeled The Sopranos on the DeCavalcanti crime family in New Jersey. He pitches the show to Fox, and their executives pass. He then pitches to HBO. HBO accepts. The pilot is filmed in 1997. The show goes on the air in 1999. Now, it's set in northern New Jersey. It's filmed in northern New Jersey. And the Soprano family lives in North Caldwell. That's where David Chase grew up. The DeMeo crime family is the crime family that the Soprano that you know as Tony Soprano heads up. In the beginning of the show, it's headed up by Jackie Aprile. He's the acting boss. The boss of the family is somewhat relegated to what they call prison. He's in federal prison. And when Jackie Aprile dies of cancer, then Tony elevates to the boss job. Many actors appeared on The Sopranos who were in Goodfellas. Tony Sirico, Lorraine Bracco, Michael Imperioli, Tony Lip, Suzanne Shepard, Frank Vincent. Many actors also appeared in Gotti, including Dominic Chianese and Vincent Pastore. Now, it was almost a hit right from the beginning. What I don't understand is why people forget the marketing. Let me just feed the dog one treat. I never do this. Just to pacify him. So people never talk about the marketing of the show. In the New York area, there were bus backs, posters on the backs of buses and the bus stops, and it had Tony Soprano at the forefront of this photo. In the background, over one shoulder, you had his family, his mom, his wife, his kids. Over the other shoulder, you had his other family, the mob family. And the caption read, if one family doesn't kill him, the other one will. And I thought this was telling because any father knows this feeling that you have two families that you have to deal with: your work family, where you have bosses who are unreasonable, where you have underlings who are incompetent, where you have associates who are always complaining. And then you have your family that you have to take care of, pay the bills, host parties, take the kids to school, etc. That harkens back to the dynamic on the Dick Van Dyke Show, where Rob Petrie's house was, like Tony Soprano's house, also a site for work people to socialize. Tony had barbecues, while Rob and Laura Petrie had many gatherings where Buddy and Sally and Mel were involved in the Petrie house. And you also saw Laura at the TV writers' room where they wrote for the Alan Brady Show. So let's talk about baseball. Baseball is sprinkled throughout the dialogue of the show. There's an early episode, if you'll recall, when Junior, Tony's uncle, wants to kill a mob rival. And he wants it to take place at a restaurant called Vesuvio, because this rival feels comfortable there. Well, Vesuvio is owned by a friend of Tony's. And if an assassination takes place at the restaurant, there goes the business. Tony tries to convince Junior to have the assassination take place somewhere else. Junior is frustrated. He's not the boss of the family as he thinks he should be. His nephew is prodding him and probing him and nudging him and basically annoying him to the point where Junior plays the family card and says, "How many hours did I spend playing catch with you?" Now, this is bookended in the last episode when Tony goes to visit Junior in what appears to be a poorly funded state-run facility. Junior has dementia, some type of dementia. He barely recognizes Tony. And the best he can muster is, "We used to play catch." And I think that's a nice bookend to the early episode. Tony has a flashback to 1967. This is the premise of an entire episode. There's a fleeting moment where Junior is driving by in a big car while Tony is getting ready to go to school. And he asks his nephew if he heard the game last night. This is 1967, the Yankees. And Tony says, "No, I couldn't. My mom wouldn't let me stay up." And Junior, with great pride, says, "Joey Pepitone, 3 RBIs. He had great pride because of an Italian achieving for the Yankees. There's an early, maybe not so early episode, but it's not terribly early in the show's run, but somewhat early, where some mobsters are playing golf. And Tony and Junior are in this gathering. And Junior taunts Tony about his lack of focus, his lack of concentration, and he references a high school baseball game where Tony dropped fly balls. This is reflective of a recurring theme in The Sopranos, and you saw it in the prequel movie, The Many Saints of Newark, where Junior talks about Tony's athletic ability, and he says he never had the makings of a varsity athlete. He doesn't say it in this particular scene regarding the fly balls, but he does say it elsewhere, and I just mentioned it because it's reflective of Junior's attitude. Tony has many businesses, as you know. He has the Bada Bing strip club. He has Satriali's Park Store. He also has Barone Sanitation. Dick Barone runs Barone Sanitation, and he dies of Lou Gehrig's disease. Dick's son, Jason, wants to sell the business. Now, it's inconceivable that Jason would not have heard of Tony Soprano, would not have consulted his mom, would not have gone to Tony first. But in this story, he doesn't do that or he ignores it. We know early in the episode, he barely recognizes Paulie Gualtieri, who's also on the roster of salaried employees. Well, Jason wants to sell the company. He wants to get it out of the family's hands, cash in now that his dad is gone, and he wants a good price. Tony wants to protect his financial interest. Tony is in the hospital. He's been shot by Junior. Junior was in a fit of dementia. And of course, Tony needs a salary. He needs health insurance. He needs legitimate income for the IRS. And they have this meeting in the hospital, and Tony tries to play a nostalgia card. And he says, remember when we went to opening day at Shea, you, me, and your dad? And Jason references that he does, and he mentions Kingman had just come back from the Cubs. Well, the windup is Tony had to negotiate a separate deal with a rival mobster whom Jason was selling to. Tony doesn't get everything he wants, but he compromises and he gets something. It's better than nothing. Finally, there's Lou DiMaggio. And this is a very interesting, disturbing scene. These guys are thugs. And you'll recall, if you watch the show, there was an episode where Joe Pantoliano's character, Ralphie, beat a stripper to death in the parking lot of the strip club. My research shows that was a response to people thinking these mobsters are funny, cuddly, that they're kind in some way. And it was meant to remind us that they're brutal thugs. And in Ralphie's case, that's probably the worst murder that's ever happened in the course of the show, because she was innocent and he bashed her head against the railing. Well, in one episode, Tony needs a hitman. He wants to take out Johnny Sacrimoni, Johnny Sack. It never comes to fruition, but in this scene, we don't know that, of course, and we're meant to believe that Tony will have this plan executed. He goes to Junior for advice. Junior's an elder statesman, and he wants some input. Well, Junior talks about a guy from Rhode Island, Lou DiMaggio. It's not his real name. His real name was Lou Galena. Lou Galena had an associate named Lenny Caputo. And Lenny Caputo refused to let his people deal drugs. The windup is Lenny was dealing drugs. And when Lou Galena found out about this, he was so furious at all this money being left on the table by not being allowed to get into this area of mafia business. He bashed in Lenny Caputo's head with a baseball bat and Lenny's wife. So he got the name Lou DiMaggio because of that incident. Now, here's where the disturbing part comes into play. Junior is telling this story almost like you're talking about your favorite high school teacher or a favorite bakery you went to as a kid, and that's no longer there. He's talking about this almost in a mournful way, a wistful way, when he says, that was Lou while he still held his, I'm sorry, I'm screwing up the line. That was Lou while he still had his health. And it's said so nonchalantly, that was Lou while he still had his health. That's not something you say about a hitman, but to him, this is the world that he traveled in. There are other sports references. The head coach of the Jets was in Artie's new restaurant, the new Vesuvio. There were references, I believe, to the Devils. AJ and Tony went to a Devils game. They are bookmakers, they're bookies. So football is big in an episode. When the guys are gambling, Tony bets on a horse race. there are several others that are in the show, which prove how prevalent baseball is, how prevalent sports is to the culture. This is the world that we live in. Sports is a dynamic that is part of our everyday life. I'm compiling a list of sports references in dialogue, not sports as the main theme of an episode, but in dialogue. And it's dozens and dozens of pages. Uh, Somebody is likely to say, oh, he's the Babe Ruth of, whether it's an accountant, a lawyer, a, a stockbroker, a construction magnate, whomever, you're likely to hear that, that kind of dialogue. I know in Law and Order, Jerry Orbach once said Willie Mays he was talking about Willie Mays' stickball prowess. And I think he said he was a 3-sewer player or something to that effect. I just used The Sopranos because it's interesting to me being in northern New Jersey. Just about every episode I recognized landmarks or things that they talked about in the dialogue that were in northern New Jersey. When one character says, look who escaped from the Turtleback Zoo. Well, that's where my second grade class went on a field trip in the 70s. All the second grade classes went there. So with that, I want to close, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for David, either in the chat or raise your hand. Mike?
Yeah, Pete, sorry, I didn't do the correct way with the emoji hands. Sorry about that. But
You're
hey,
fine.
I was just wondering, got some friends up there in North Jersey, and I know Montclair State and Yogi Berra were, obviously are huge. And I'm just wondering if that was ever part of any of the episodes. And if you touched on that, I apologize if I missed it.
No, that's a good question. Was Yogi Berra ever referenced? I don't believe so. I could be wrong, but I don't believe so.
Okay, thanks. I know he's a legend, obviously, in around the world, but also in North Jersey for sure.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Questions, comments, rebuttal.
I have a question.
Or
Can anybody see me?
no.
Hold on. Let's see. If we can see. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think anybody can see me, but I'll ask anyway. I've never seen a single episode of that show. I'm going to watch it now, but
Okay.
do they mention any like Hall of Famers in the show, but like at all?
Well, not in baseball, but I know that in one episode, Paulie Gualtieri is talking about I think his brother was in Manhattan and he saw Namath stumbling out of a bar
Oh,
middle of the night or early in the morning, and the Jets were playing that day, so he bet big against Namath, but he lost. Things like that. I don't think any Hall of Famers mentioned. There might have been. I mean, Babe Ruth is such a common reference that it's possible that he was mentioned, and I'm not recalling it. DiMaggio was probably mentioned. I mean, we have the DiMaggio reference with the Hitman, but whether Joe himself was mentioned in terms of his greatness, I don't think so.
Yeah, I had a question. I was curious.
Yeah.
It's given the mob's notorious family and loyalty issues. Do they have any Yankee and Met rivalries that came out on the show at all?
Oh God, these are great questions. Yes, yes. When Meadows' boyfriend Finn needs a job, Tony gets him a job on a construction site, and the mobsters are sitting around talking about the Yankees, talking about the World Series against the Padres because Finn is from the San Diego area. He's a Padres fan. They're not talking about anyone specifically in terms of the old days, but someone references that, says, "Oh, Finn, are you a Mets fan?" He's like, "No, Padres." So no rivalry per se, but again, just that dialogue shows you how sports pervades everything. They could have been talking about anything. They could have been debating whether McDonald's hamburgers were better than Burger King. They could have been debating whether a Ferrari is better than a Lamborghini. But the writers chose baseball because it would fit as well. That these guys would just be, shooting the breeze about what? About fast food, about cars, about baseball. Maybe they tried a few and baseball was the one that fit.
Thanks.
David, if I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
There's a reference, I didn't hear you mention it, but there's the Abbott and Costello statue. where
Oh
Tony-
yeah.
Tony
Yeah.
has a meeting, the Who's on First statue. Can you
It's
tell
in,
us about that?
yeah, it's in 2 episodes. It might be in 3 episodes. 2 that I know of. One where he meets Paulie. This is the Lou Costello statue at Patterson. Tony meets Paulie to tell him that Furio is coming over from Italy and Paulie is getting a bump up the ladder. There's another reference where he's meeting Phil Leotardo. And I think there's a scene that also takes place at night.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the night one.
That's in Patterson, New Jersey. That is Lou Costello's hometown. I actually wrote Lou Costello's SABR bio, if you guys are interested.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Good catch. That's what I love about The Sopranos, because it showed sites and places in New Jersey that you wouldn't normally see. The Falls, in Little Falls, Atlantic City, the shore, the Lou Costello statue. It wasn't, I think it was David Chase who he was interviewed, and he said that when he went to HBO, he was worried that they were going to say, you'll film it in LA and you'll go back for a couple of weeks every season to shoot exteriors, like The Odd Couple used to do that. You'd see Oscar and Felix in New York, but those were establishing shots. Everything else took place on a stage at Paramount. The head of HBO, I believe, said to David Chase, "So you're filming this in New Jersey, right? It's going to be on location." And that just added to the authenticity. Did somebody put something in the chat about Meadows' boyfriend?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, Vito, when Finn catches him with another man, Vito wants to invite him to a Yankee game. We don't see any scenes of the game. We just see Vito outside waiting for him, and Finn never shows.
And didn't he tell him, David, didn't he also tell him to meet him at the
bat.
bat?
Yeah.
Anybody else, guys? I'm a big fan. I mean, I've seen the entire show at least twice, every episode. I watched the final episode in whatever that was, David, summer of 07. The
I
final
think so,
episode when
yeah.
it cut to the black screen, everybody thought their cable went out. It was just the way the episode
Oh,
was
yeah.
designed. So the years have gone by, but the Sopranos have definitely stood the test of time.
If you get a chance and you have HBO, check out the documentary Wise Guy, which is about David Chase. And there's a lot of information about the production aspects that we learn about, the way the finale was shot, how they borrowed from 2001: A Space Odyssey, people seeing themselves, Tony walking into his own point of view. You see the show in an entirely different way when you hear these, the cinematographer and the director of photography talk about these types of things.
For those of you who haven't seen it, like Grady, if you're still on, I think it's about 75 or
86 episodes, I believe.
It's the entire series.
Yeah, 86,
86.
I think.
Some minors are around watching it.
Over 7 years. You broke up a little, Peter.
Says my internet's unstable,
Ah,
so it happens.
okay.
Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Can I give
You
a
guys are
plug?
making this early.
Can I give a plug for 2 books coming out?
Go
Please.
ahead.
I have 2 books coming out this spring. One is a biography of Bo Belinsky that is published by McFarland, and a book about 1978, which is from University of Nebraska Press. And there is a Baltimore connection with Bo. He was in the Orioles organization, but they let him go, and he wound up with the Angels and pitched a no-hitter as a rookie against the O's.
Well, when those come out, we'll have you back on for sure,
I
Dave.
hope so. I hope so.
Always welcome, that's for sure. We don't have another call until the first Wednesday in February. Be on the lookout for information, like I said, on the upcoming SABR Day for those of you who are in this region and can make it. And also the Baltimore Chop is currently being edited and likely appear in your inbox or a message, your SABR message portal within a week. So,
Peter, if I could make a plug for the Bob Davids chapter is having its SABR Day
SABR
on
Day,
February
yes.
1st. So twice the baseball, twice the fun. We make it a point to not conflict with each other. So both events are worth attending. I always attend yours as well.
Yeah, we appreciate SABR Day is February 1st for most chapters. That's the national day. Our neighboring ones, including Bob Davids, the Philadelphia Connie Mac, and also the Harrisburg Central PA chapters are all doing their meetings on February 1st. So
Wow.
depending on where you live and what's closest to you, get support at least one of them if you can.
Right.
So not possible. And for anybody who wants to follow other chapters, you can sign up, so you can get their emails and some chapters are more active than others. I think I'm probably on 22 different lists.
Oh my
but it's worth it.
That's a lot.
Peter, did you say that this is being recorded, correct?
Correct.
And we'll be able to view this. Where would that be?
It'll be up on SABR's YouTube page. Jacob will put it up probably in the next 2 days.
Oh, okay. Because I missed the beginning. I'm sorry. I didn't hear
No
what.
problem.
David.
Yeah, I record them all. I've missed a few over the years, but
Okay. Well, I really want to hear what David had to say because I love The Sopranos and I've watched it quite a bit too.
yeah, this is,
So I missed what most of David's talk apparently.
Oh.
Sorry about that, but I'll get it anyway.
Yeah.
back and watch ourselves and
And when did you say the SABR Day is, Peter?
Baltimore is Monday, the 17th of February.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Have your
President's
lineup
Day.
already?
We have we usually try to get 6 speakers. I have 4 confirmed as of now. We're still waiting on the Orioles alum, and we're hoping to have a speaker or 2 possibly from one of the local Oriole affiliates.
Where is it?
Well, then I will email you because I have an idea for you.
Okay. Yeah, Peabody Heights Brewery, which is in Baltimore. For those of you who are here for the convention, it's the site of old Oriole Park, the one that burned down in July of 1944. So
Oh, wow.
they give us the space for free, but as long as we do it on a day when they're closed to the public.
I see. Okay. That's pretty great.
So that's why it's ours is a little bit of an odd day and time, but
Right.
usually we get a good crowd.
Mhm.
Okay.
Um, in New Year, for those of us here in the Mid-Atlantic, at least in Baltimore, I think it's down to about 20 degrees. And some snow is supposed to come on Saturday. So we'll see what happens. Winter's here, and only about 80 some days until opening day, from what I understand. So
Right, but only 6 weeks until pitchers and catchers report.
pitchers and catchers report.
Yep.
Right. So
Is anyone
anybody going
to
to spring
Nine
training?
Conference?
I hope.
Is anyone going to the 9 conference in Arizona?
What
Not
conference was
familiar with
that?
that one.
The 9 conference?
Ah,
No. Okay.
Is that a Saber one, or
No.
I know they have the analytics one out in Arizona in February too.
in
This
March.
is with
In
the
March.
nine
March, sorry,
conference.
March.
Yeah.
It's the same people. I mean, it's all Saber people, but it's not a Saber event.
I don't think I could afford a plane ticket. Sorry.
What's the name of it again, David?
9.
9. Okay.
Just Google 9 baseball conference and it'll come up.
Okay.
Peter, how often do you guys meet on Zoom?
At least once a month.
And how often do you meet in person?
Well, some like this, we try to do it as a hybrid, but nobody comes out in the winter.
Yeah.
Person only. We do the called shot level. People come to that because it's downtown in the middle of the day.
Right.
So we have at least one in person a month.
And where can I find your
and
Saber Day agenda?
Zoom, depending on what month of the year.
Where can we find your Saber Day agenda? Okay.
It's not out yet. So just look in your inbox soon.
Okay, please.
So, but other than that, guys, have a good night. We'll be in touch. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time around.
Thanks for your time.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thanks. Nice talk.
Care. Bye-bye.